Okay, so let's get started with the Form and Survey Builder workshop. Forms are not anonymous, surveys are anonymous. That is the only difference between the tools. So at the top, we have a Forms tool and we have a Surveys tool. Survey tool, you will never know who took the survey or who submitted it, unless you ask their name, of course, which you could, but we will never provide that information. In the Form Builder, if we know it, we provide it. Meaning if you have security set to on and someone is logging into the system, either with a university net ID or with an outside email address, if they're going through security, then we know who they are and we will stamp that right in the report that you can run. Also, we can give you other information if you so choose, which you will see, like, are they a faculty, staff, student, what unit, department do they work for, that type of thing. So again, the only difference between forms and surveys is surveys are 100% anonymous, and those are rules that the IRB gave us. Okay, so let's get started. In the Form Builder, we have tabs at the top. We're adding a new search tab to each of the tools. This is how you can find what other people have done. If you need to find something, let's just say I'm searching for chemistry, and are there any forms? So here's all the forms I found. So you could locate a form by name, and of course I could have typed more of the name than I did. And then if I find the one that I'm looking for, I can view it, see what it looks like. As long as it's not ended or not private, we'll see it. And then you can also click on roles, and these will be the people that have access to it. Okay, we have a department tab, which shows everything that, for me, everything that was created in web services. I don't have access to it, but I can see them, and then I can, of course, find out who does have access if I need to ask for access. Same thing with my unit, public affairs. This is everything that was created in public affairs other than me. And the new tab, deleted, this was added a few months ago, and we plan to add a deleted tab to all of the web tools where you can undelete the things that you've deleted. So if you accidentally delete a form, this is where you would go to undelete it. Here are all of my deleted forms. I could very quickly select one and restore it, and then it would be found back over on my Forms tabs. Okay, so those are all the tabs at the top. Let's go over and let's first look at a sample form that has every question type. Okay, so this is our sample form. I click to go into it, I go to the General tab, and then these are all the tabs we're going to work through today. The workflow in Webtools is typically left to right. Just work through the tabs until you get all the way over, and then you're finished. So this is a form that we've set up in the past just as a demo to show what is available in the Form Builder. If I view it, we'll just quickly scroll down. We have a type of question called a section header. It is just information. You can put in text, HTML, you could insert an image here if you wanted, but there is no answer. It's like a question with no answer. It is just designed to put in information, break this up any way you want to with header information. And it could be inserted in between every question if you wanted. That's not really necessary, as we give you instructions that you can insert, but you could do it with a section header also. We have a short answer question. We have a long answer where they can type up to, I don't know, 1,000 characters. I'm not sure what it is. It might be more than that. And you can limit how many characters they can put in, and we'll look at the validation rules that you have with each of these questions as we go today. We have a radio where you can choose one only. There is an other option we provide if you wanted to allow someone to type in an other response for a radio question. We have a checkbox question, which allows you to choose 0 to many. You can choose how many they select also. And then we also give the ability to add other text with a checkbox also. Pull down, of course, you see these all over. What state do you live in? What that type of question. And at the bottom, there should be an other option where they could type something in if they're from out of the country. A ranking question. Ranking questions are very simple. They simply are to rank something from one to the number of things you have to rank. Meaning, I have 5 things here. If I put in 1, 2, 4, or 3, 3, 5, or 4, and hit enter, it's going to say, hey, these are out of order. It has to be 1 to the number of things you want to rank. Okay, it's the only way the ranking question works. It does get used quite a bit, but that's our ranking question. A matrix question, you can insert questions that go horizontally, or the answers go horizontally. They can be either checkbox or radio. So again, if you wanted to allow it, choose many, then you would use a checkbox. If you wanted a radio, or if you wanted only one, you would use a radio. We have a file upload question. If you want to ask someone to upload a spreadsheet or upload a resume or whatever, you can insert a file upload question. And of course, you can insert as many of these as you want. If you had 10 files that you wanted someone to upload, you would actually insert 10 file upload questions, and you'd have a browse button next to each, and that's how you would get those. At the bottom, we have one more question that you can insert, and that is, should someone be able to get a submission of their, or a copy of their submissions? So it looks like this form is set to public because it makes me enter the email address. If it was secure, then they would have logged in either with their net ID or their email address. We'd know who they are, and they wouldn't see any of this. When they click submit, they would just get a copy. So that's something that you would decide as you're setting up this form, and we'll see that in a little bit. So that's it. There's not a lot of question types. Looks like 7 or 8 question types. This is all of them, and this is what we're going to look at building today. Everything in the form builder and most web tools is accessible and responsive. So if I see what this would look like on a form, or on a phone rather, it would look very good. It would be very usable on a phone. Okay, let's go back and get started. So I am going to, let's start a form from scratch. I will click the create button, and like all web tools, we go to the general tab and give it a name. In the form builder, you can choose the domain. We have the 3 campuses and the system URL if you like. I'll just leave it on illinois.edu. Here I can copy that URL. That is the URL that I would send out in an email or post on a website. We can view this form at any time by clicking the view at the top right, or the view button here. And of course, we haven't added any questions yet, so we don't see any. Okay, one thing about the URL is if you start the form, you're collecting responses, you find a typo, you have to stop the form to fix the typo. When you restart the form, the URL does not change. So you can stop and start a form or survey as many times as you like, and the URL will not change. So if you've sent it out in an email, you won't have to send another email. Right here, we'll get to this in a little bit later, the scheduling. This is where I can go ahead and set up a start date and end date in the future for this thing to run. Often if it doesn't necessarily have to end at a certain minute or hour, I suggest, whoops, let me turn that off. I suggest just clicking start form or survey when you're ready to start it, and when you're ready to stop it, click stop. And the reason I say that is a lot of people schedule things and then they decide, oh, we only have 18 responses, we want to extend this for another week. Well, you're going to have to stop and start the form to do that. and which is fine. The URL won't change, but you will have 2 reports in the end then. So every time you stop and start a form or survey, you have an additional report to run. So I think most people probably just click start when they're ready to start, stop when they're ready to stop. But we do have the scheduling feature available if you would like to use that. At the bottom of all web tools, we just have additional information. I'm seeing a little bit more than you would, but let's see. You would see the ID and how many saved surveys there are. We'll look at that. You can turn saving on as you like. And you're also able to copy this form. So right now we are in the forms tool. Let's say I created a form and then realized, no, I want this to be anonymous. I can copy it to the survey tool. So all I would do is copy as survey, and then copy successful. If we go to the survey tool, there it is. So there is the copy. It wouldn't let me keep the name because I used the word form in the name, and surveys, we have keywords that you can't use, and I don't believe you can use the word form in a survey because it implies non-anonymity. Okay, back to the form builder. So you can copy forms and surveys back and forth between the tools if you accidentally use the wrong tool. Okay, that is everything on the general tab. Not a lot here. Again, we just give it a name. Oh, I hadn't clicked save. That's what it was. Now it has a name. Okay, so again, just the name, the domain, the URL, and the stop-start functionality. That's it on the general tab. Questions. This is where we do all of our work. So I'm going to create a question, and then I'm going to probably jump back to that sample that we had before, so I don't have to do a lot of typing during this workshop. But when I create a question, here are all of the options that I have to create. So when I showed you the example form with all of the question types, here are all the question types. I simply went down this list. I created a short answer, a long answer, a radio, and that is my example form. Okay, so let's create, the very first one we had was a header. Let's create a header. So we've added our first question, even though it doesn't have an answer, it's just a header. If we view it, this is my heading, there it is. At the top of the form, you see preview mode. This form is not live. Form validation rules. This is how you can turn the validation rules on and off. If you have a form and you have 20 pages in your form and every one is a required question, you don't want validation on as you're paging through just to check for typos. You don't want to have to fill out every question. So by default, all validation's off. If you want to test any validation rule, and we'll look at that when we get there, that the form offers, we would have to click on, and now if I click submit and there were rules in place, I would get all of the errors saying, hey, you have to answer this, or hey, this is supposed to be numeric, that type of thing. But that's what this message at the top means. If you want to test validation, you're going to have to turn it on, and then all validation will be in play. Okay. So there, as I create questions, they're going to be in this list. We can move the list around right now. Let's see. Right, let me insert one more. So we'll insert a short answer. Type. All right, now we start to see that we have validation rules that we can apply. Every question is going to have an instruction. I'll just go ahead and put an instruction in just so you can see where it goes. And we'll view it. Okay, so Here is the question I just inserted, the short answer question, and then I typed instructions in the instruction area. There's where they show up. Instructions are available in every question type, and they are applied immediately above the question. So if you had special rules, special instructions for any question, this is probably where you would put it. If you had a paragraph or two, or you want to insert, if you wanted to insert like a link to a spreadsheet or a link to an image for someone to look at, or you could even embed the image right here if you wanted to. But instructions do support HTML. You can do a lot of formatting there. Questions do not support HTML for accessibility reasons. Okay, let's move down a little bit farther. Answer rules. Every question we can require an answer for. So when I choose that, they have to put in an answer, or when they click submit, they'll get that error that says, hey, question number 3 has to be answered, something like that. We can put in a default answer. Let's see, what is your first name? If I wanted to put, if I think everybody's first name is Jim, I could put that in there. Let's save it and view it. Now we've pre-populated that question with the answer that we gave it. So most of the questions support a default. Let's keep going. Validation rules. For short answer, there's several validation rules. If we wanted it to be an email, I would choose email. And it has to be something at something dot something, you know, in that format. Or we would say, hey, this needs to be an email. These are all the validation rules we have right now. Limit answer length. If I wanted to count the words, I could say I want it to be, you know, 5 words, or if I wanted to be, I could even count characters if I like. Okay, web parameter. There's more instructions for using web parameters here, but you can pre-populate fields if you're a programmer and you want to call this form programmatically and populate a bunch of the fields with, you know, name, unit code, that type of thing. Click on this and this will take you to our blog and explain that. But this doesn't get used a whole lot. All right. So now I'm going to cancel out of here. We're going to keep working on the questions, but I'm going to go back over to the sample form with each question type. Okay, so again, general tab, just general information, and we are on the questions tab. Okay, we've looked at a section header. We've looked at a text, a short answer. Now we're going to look at a long. Long is just a text area. So we just give you a text area to type in instructions. That's just an example. Is this question required? Do we want a default for it? And then the limit answer length. Those are the only rules for a long answer question. Whoops, didn't mean to back out of there. Okay, so the next one we have is a radio. The radio, the checkbox, and the pull down all look the same. They have a question, they have the ability to add instructions, and we give you the place to add the answers. Right now I can see we have 3 answers added. If I put in A, B, and C, click add answers. So now we have 3 new answers, not that they make any sense here. So I can edit those answers, can move them up and down, I can add more answers in between them. I'm going to delete them. Okay, here I showed you that one of the answers you can provide is other. You would not simply type other up here. That would, I mean, they would be able to select it, but they wouldn't be able to type in text with it. If you want them to be able to type in something other than what you're offering, then you would want to include other answer choice. So it's already set to yes. That's why when we clicked other for the radio, we get this other answer choice. That's what this is. and we see that the other answer choice can either be a long answer or a short answer. So maybe we don't want to allow them to type paragraphs. Maybe we want to indicate to them that it should be shorter by choosing short answer. So now I can see that it is not a text area, it's a text box, and it looks like you're wanting a much shorter answer. Okay, I'm gonna change that back to long before I forget. And then the answer rules, there's not many rules, just whether you want the answer to be required or not for a long answer question. Then you can put in your default. So your answers are yes, no, and not sure. Those are the only three you can choose from then, yes, no, or not sure. Or you can just leave it with no default. Okay, that is a radio. I mentioned that the checkbox looks just like it. So if we go into a checkbox, same thing, enter your question, add your instructions if you want them, add in your answers, which then show up in the list that you can reorder, add, edit, delete, include other answer choice, yes or no, if you want them to be able to do that. You can change the, I didn't mention this on the other one, you can change the label also. Maybe you don't want it to say other. Maybe you want it to say, let's see, how did you find out about web services? Maybe you wanted to say, please describe where you found us. You can do that too. So if I save that and hit view, okay, so now it doesn't say other, it says what I typed in. You can change that other option to be whatever you want it to be. So let me go back and then at the bottom again, you can require the answer. And for a checkbox, it's 0 to many you can choose. So now you can say, oh, I want to choose 5, or no, I want to only allow them to choose 3, 15, whatever you like. That is a checkbox. Next is a pull down, which is going to look very similar. Question, instructions. Okay, here we give you the, several people were asking for this years ago. They didn't want to type in 50 states. So we gave them the ability to add them. So you just click add states and it would add all of these for you. And then you can choose the format that you're adding also. Answer choices, you can still add to this list if you like, if you wanted to put in Puerto Rico or wherever. At the bottom, again, you can add an other option. Long or short, change the text, answer rules, require it, and then of course you can choose a default answer. So the radio, the checkbox, and the pull down are almost identical, very, very close. The ranking. Okay, again, question, instructions, put in your answers, your answer list, and then your rules. Require an answer, require exact number of options ranked. So you can say that here's 15 options, we want your top 3, and you would word that into your question. Please, tell us what your top 3 are, 1 through 3, and then we will only allow them to type in 3 numbers if that's what you choose. So you can require less options to be ranked than the number that you entered if you like. By default, it's just 1 to the number of things entered. And if someone gets that wrong, then we do give them a meaningful message saying, hey, this is how that question needs to be answered. Okay, we're almost finished working through the question types here. Then we'll get to the settings. There's quite a few settings in the form and survey builder. Matrix. The only difference between a matrix and the others is now you have to add a list of questions because a matrix has several questions instead of one. So Here's where I can add questions. If none of these were here, I would simply see the plus sign to add my first question. So if I wanted to add a fourth one, is it required? Okay, and you saw, I should have pointed something out. Let me edit that one I just added. Here, we need you to, okay, it says back and then save. For this particular question, which is a very complicated question in our system, we need you to click back, and then we need you to click save before it is saved. So I think that's the only place in the entire system where we do that. But back and then save means go back and save it. So I'm going to delete that fourth question that I just added. We have our answer choices, just like all the other questions. We can require the answer, we can supply a default, and we can, and we can decide if it's a radio or checkbox in our matrix. So again, the matrix looks like this. This is what we're building, and we're adding multiple questions where everywhere else we only added one question. Okay, the last thing is file uploading. So let's go back and look at the next question. Oh, here in the matrix, I should have mentioned, okay, I see the first question that I put in, and then I put in two more. Well, I can't edit the other two. I can't move them up or down. I can only move the whole group. So if I move this up, then it's going to move the entire group up, not just number 7. Okay, the last one, please upload your spreadsheet, type file. Not much to this, it is just a question, instructions if you want them, and whether it's required or not. And then we will put in the prompt for someone to choose and upload a file. Okay, those are all of the question types. Right now, we don't support drag and drop in here. We hope to do that in the future. All of our other tools, we're supporting drag and drop now, but this one you still have to move them up with the arrows. Okay, when I view this, right now I see that all the questions are on one page. At the bottom of all of my questions here, I have insert all page breaks. So if you wanted a page break, whoops, I don't know why that just happened. Okay, so I had just clicked that insert all page breaks button, and now we see page 1, 2, 3, 4. So it has put every single question on its own page. So now if we look at it, and validation is off, so I can simply click next through all these, everyone is on its own page. Maybe you don't want them on, maybe you just want to, so I just deleted them. Maybe you want a page break in between, question 4 and 5, then you could simply go over here and add a page break there. So you can add page breaks wherever you like. Okay, display line numbers. Most people use auto, we'll number them for you. Some people use none. If it's like a contact us form, I think I have the numbers turned off in my contact us form. They're not really necessary. Or custom, you can click custom and it will allow you to put in whatever you want. Maybe you don't want 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Maybe you want 1A, 1B, 1C. You can do whatever you want. However, recommended is auto. Auto is easiest for us to say, hey, you answered question number 3 wrong. It needs to be, it is a required question. If you turn them off, then it's harder for us to say that because they don't know which one possibly don't know which one number 3 is. So it takes a lot more effort on our end to inform them what they have to go down and change. And it's not always pretty, especially if you put in a whole paragraph for a question. Now we have to put the whole paragraph in at the top saying, hey, you didn't answer this thing, and it gets a little messy. So if you can, use the auto recommended option. Okay, the last thing I'm going to show you on here is our very simple branching option, our conditional option that we offer. If I go into this radio right now, and I go down to the answers, I see nothing to do with jumping to a different page. The way we do jumping is it has to be a radio question. You have to insert a radio question, but right now I don't have any other pages. I only have one page, so there's nowhere to jump to. You can only jump to a page. You can't jump to a question. You would have to structure your form or survey so they're jumping to the page, which then could, the first question could be the one that you wanted them to jump to. So let me show you what happens when I turn insert all page breaks on and we go back into the radio question. Now we have a jump to column. So if they answer yes, I could say I cannot jump backwards. I can't jump to page 1, 2, or 3. However, I could have put this question on page 1, then I could have jumped anywhere. But I could jump to 5, if they say yes, 7 if they say no, and maybe 8, which is the last one, if they're not sure. One thing you can't do is you can't jump to page 8 and go backwards. You can't go 8, 6, and 4. It has to be, it has to increment. So you can only jump to pages farther down in the form or survey as you're going down through the answers, if that makes sense. So try that out, but that is what we have to offer as far as jumping, and that's it. You can jump to a different page. You can use multiple radio questions, insert as many as you want, but you just have to follow the rules of, if the first one I jump to is 6, I cannot jump to 5 or 4 anywhere after that. I have to jump to 7 or 8. Okay, I am going to go back and turn that off. And a reminder, if you would like to try that, a reminder is we have a very good explanation of that walks you right through it. If you go down to our help blog, go to the Forms and Survey Builder, and use conditional logic. There's just 4 paragraphs here, 3 paragraphs, and that's it. So it's very simple and straightforward. Okay. I've had a couple questions here. Let's see, the one that pertains to what we're talking about right now is there a benefit to using a page break? Do you, for instance, get better results if each question is on its own page? No, I don't think you do, and I think people, from what I've seen, people prefer fewer page breaks because they know how many questions they have left to answer. However, if you want to use conditional logic, you're going to need to use page breaks. Another time to use a page break is, I see a lot of people wanting some kind of confirmation that the person taking the form or survey is agreeing to the rules. So I'll see question number 1 saying, and maybe it's a radio that says yes or no, and you simply lay out all the rules in the instructions, and then you say if you answer yes, then continue. If you answer no, then it takes them to the end of the survey, or use that first question as your getting the confirmation that you need. Then if they continue, everything's great, and if they don't accept, well, then they don't continue. So that's another reason to use a page break. Let's see. Okay, so I will answer the other questions as we go, as they're not related to this right now. Okay, let's keep moving. That was the questions tab. That's where you do all the work. That's where the majority of your time will be spent. Security. This is a public form. That's why when I click it, it appears immediately. It's not going through shibboleth. It's not, there's no security. But if it's secured, when you click view, it's always going to take about 3 or 4 seconds to get through everything, and then it'll come up. Okay, we can secure a form or survey to a special group, meaning for BANA, we can do this, that is, we can limit it to staff or students. We can't do that for the other 2 campuses right now. But for this campus, you could limit it to faculty or staff or students. You can limit it to any group that you create in the group manager. The group manager is a workshop we're doing on Thursday. You can limit it to a campus. You can limit it to a unit or college or department. Okay, so those are the security settings. Public means anyone in the world can take it, and we cannot limit them to taking it only once. If it's secured, yes, we can limit it to limit someone to taking it only once, and we'll get to that on the submissions tab. Okay, so that's everything on the groups tab. Appearance. What do you want this thing to look like? So right now, by default, it is in the Illinois wizard skin. If I wanted it to be in, let's see, the UIS wizard skin, I could choose that. If I'm on the UIS campus, now this form looks like that. Okay, so appearance tab is where you choose what you want your web tool to look like. We have a new feature a lot of people don't know about, this view gallery, which will show you all the skins. You won't have nearly as many as I do. It just makes it a lot easier to find the one that you're looking for. And if I want to find applied arts, I could choose that. And then, of course, it would be in that skin. Okay, whatever skin is chosen, you can always, if there's a problem with it, we give a link to the skin administrators. So I can see that I'm the administrator for this one. This must be a test skin that I created. But then that way you could contact the person. So again, this view list, view gallery just takes you back and forth between a list and then viewing them in the gallery. Okay. Screens. This is where you can edit any of the screens in the system. If the form has ended, let's say you went in and clicked the stop button, then you could end the form ended screen. By default, it says the form has ended. Thanks for filling it out. Probably shouldn't say thanks for filling it out if they didn't get to fill it out, but that's what the default says. So you could, if you've only allowed one submission per person and someone's trying to take it twice, there's the screen you would edit to give them the message. You could, on the, let's see, introductory and closing messages, these are just the messages that would appear at the top and the bottom of the form or survey if you wanted to put in messages. You could also do this with section headers. So this may not get used that much. However, I know people do edit these other screens. You know, the thank you screen, that's the one people see when they filled it out, everything was successful. You know, maybe you put in a link to something else here. Okay, that's the screen sub-tab. The email tab. Okay, when a form or survey is submitted, we can email it. We can email it to you as the person who's created it or someone that you delegate, and we can email it to the person that has just filled it out. So at the top, send to user. That's the person. Respondent receives an email copy of the submission. Okay, if you want them to get it, choose yes. Send to other recipients. Okay, if it's no, there's no boxes here to type anything. I turn it on yes, and now I can start entering people. Or I could enter a help desk email address here if this was a contact us form that you were creating. And then whenever it's filled out, whoever is in this list is going to get a copy of it. Okay, more about emails. We can put an introduction and a closing. Maybe you want the submission that's going out to the person that just submitted it to have information on top and information on bottom. I don't know what that is, but I know we were asked for it, so we added it. We can send this in an HTML format or text format. Some help desk systems don't want HTML, so we give the ability to send this in text. HTML is the default. Outlook, most email clients support HTML just fine. So that is the default, but you can turn it off and send just a strictly text email if you like. Include forms, section headers, and emails. Okay, remember back on the questions tab, a section header. Some people don't want these in the email because they're not really questions. And some people put a lot of these with paragraphs and paragraphs in their forms. So they don't want to get all of this additional information when they get an email submission. They just want to know, what John wants for lunch or whatever. So you can omit those if I go back to the email tab well, just don't include them and then they won't be in there. You can also exclude questions that were not answered. So if someone, if you have 100 questions, maybe you're selling something and they only want to buy one thing, you probably want to exclude the questions that weren't answered because you're going to have to go through the other 99 to figure out what they wanted. So that's a way to exclude questions in your email that were not answered. All right, submissions. Settings here, this is how many total people you want to fill this out. If this is for a classroom and there's 50 seats in the classroom, you might put 50, okay? So you would leave it blank for unlimited. Limit users to one response. If you want someone to only take this once, that is how you do it. On the setting, or on the submissions tab, limit users to one response. Allow users to save and finish later, and allow users to delete submissions. I usually tell people, I don't specifically like those options. It just creates saving and finishing later. If you have to stop and start a form to correct a typo, everyone loses their saved information. There's no way for us to know that you just didn't delete 10 questions. And also, if someone saves to finish later, we have to send them an email. They have to remember they have that email, find the email, click the link in it to come back in. Same thing with delete. If you allow users to delete, what that means is when they submit, we send them an email saying, hey, here's your link to delete this if you want. Some people click it accidentally, and then we get emails saying, hey, we know they submitted it. We got the submission email, but it's not in the report. Well, that's because they accidentally clicked the delete link. So these two, they're effective, they work exactly like they're supposed to, but they can add some confusion. So just FYI, total submissions received, this is how many people have filled it out. If we did say 50 up here, and it said, and down here it said 50, but you wanted to allow people to keep filling it out, you could click reset, it would go back to 0. Okay, saved. Whenever anyone saves, like I said, you can turn it on right here. Whenever anyone saves, the saved submission will be on the screen. So when they get a hold of you and say, hey, I don't know where my email's at, you can go here, copy the URL, send it to them, say, here's your URL, and that will happen, unfortunately. Another side effect of allowing people to save is they're going to lose their emails, and you're going to have to come here to find their saved submissions. Data export, this is more for IT departments if you wanted to automatically export data and not get it in an email or a report, which we're going to next. So I'm not going to spend much time there. Hidden fields, I'm not going to, this again, more for IT teams, and we give instructions here. I'm not going to spend any time here today. Okay, reports. We're almost finished here. Whoops, let me go out to a live form now. Let's use the web services contact us. This one gets used a lot. So reports. Okay, here's all the reports I've generated in the past. I can see this session is live. Here's a different session where I had to stop and start it. Every time I stop and start, I get another session. So as I scroll down here, all these times are stops and starts for some reason. Now I can see they're years ago, but these are all the sessions that I have. I can delete any of these sessions and clean this up at any time. I just haven't done so. I can create a new report on any of these sessions at any time. So let's just go in. My report types, I have a PDF summary, which I'll generate first, a PDF summary with answers, which gives you limited answers. We can't give you everything in a summary with answers. PDF full responses. This is going to give you a PDF per submission. If there were 1,000 submissions, you're going to get 1,000 pages for this report, because every page will be a different submission. CVS, just a spreadsheet of the straight data. And if you want a zip load of files, if this form was for specifically for collecting files, and there's a lot of them, you don't want to have to go into a spreadsheet and download those one at a time. We will give you a zip file of all of them. Okay, so let's just quickly generate the summary. I know we're getting short on time. Okay, okay, one reports. Oh, I'm sorry. I ran a report for one that was already completed. That's all right though. We'll just go look at it. So here's the one that I ran it for. Here's what a summary report looks like. I know this text must look really small to everyone, but how many were answered of question 1? 515, just summary information. The spreadsheet would give you all of the information. That's probably the most common report. Okay, again, I can go delete any of these old sessions, clean this up if I want. I cannot delete the live session, of course. It's the one that is currently running. But however, I could delete any of the reports within the live session that I've ran. Privileges, like all the web tools, this is where you give other people access. Administrators have full access in Webtools. Okay, anything else has limited access. Result viewers can simply run reports. That's all they can do. So if you want someone in Webtools and any of the tools to have full access, make them an administrator. All right, I've made it through all the tabs. I'm sure I missed something. Let me quickly look at the questions that I got. Let's see. Is there a way to compile statistics using the survey tool? Okay, statistics, we give you the reports. We'll summarize them where we can, or we give you the raw data in the CVS. That's all we have. We don't do a lot of summarizing or of breaking anything down for you. We're handing you the information and letting you do something with it. Okay, let's see, what else? Do you know of a department that has a survey set up on their site that we could look at? A survey, well, I'm assuming you mean survey or form. I'm sure I could click around and find some. We built the software, so we don't have forms to go to. I can show you any of the forms that I have. Those are the ones that I know about. But the sample is a good one just because it gives every single question type. I don't know why that just happened. Oh, something's going on with Shibboleth, it looks like. Okay. All right. Well, I think we are to the end. I'm going to stop the recording and answer any questions you have. So thank you for joining.